You're acquiring leads for $1?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and the quality of the lead is good?
Yes. Yes.
That's rather amazing. Okay.
Just imagine this. We have dropped the lead cost to $0 and we've maintained the lead quality as well. And so the result has become like even more impressive. They got 372,000 new email subscribers in one day, just yesterday. Hey, Marc Aarons here, host of the Modern Consultant Podcast. What you just saw was a clip from our last guest episode with Jay Abraham, man that's known as the $50 billion man because that's how much he's made for his clients in profits. Update, that $1 per lead result that we were able to get for one of my clients, we've actually been able, since we recorded that episode, to get down to $0 per lead. We also added over 300,000 new email subscribers with the same approach. And it's all part of the 9-step system that I shared on last week's episode. To get the backstory, the context, go back and listen to the episode with Jay Abraham. Then listen to the shorter episode that I released last week. That's going to give you everything you need to be able to get the most out of this week's episode. In last week's episode, I shared with you the 9-step roadmap that we're using to be able to drive all client results this year as well as into 2024. So if you are listening to this and you want more context on this, go back, listen to that episode. But for now, there's 3 problems that I want to share with you that I see a lot of people running into that we're going to address in this video. And we're going to talk about how the 9 steps addresses each of those 3 problems. So the first big problem is actually with the audience. And that's the lower rung of the graphic that you're seeing here on screen, right? The big problem is most people have a broad audience that doesn't scale, basically. And to be able to solve for that, you need to make sure that you have the right quality. That starts with selecting the right segment. Then you need to make sure that you have the right quantity. That's where you get up to step 3, which is scaling the segment. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Second thing that we need to solve for are your offers. You need to have a scalable offer in some way, shape, or form. A lot of people that I work with are generally trying to go from one-on-one to one-to-few to one-to-many with their offers, whether that's a product offering or that's a service offering that is scalable in some way, shape, or form. Now, there's 3 aspects that you need to be able to solve for you to be able to do that. You need to have an offer that is, 1, effective for delivering the transformational outcome that is being promised. The second is you want to make sure that you have the right capacity. It can handle the level of scale that you're wanting it to get to. The third thing that you need to make sure that is built into it is throughput. Okay, great. Now that you've got the capacity, can it actually handle the volume that you're wanting to run through it? The third thing that we need to figure out then is sales. And the primary problem that a lot of people here run into is they don't have an effective sales system that can also scale. And so going from one-on-one to one-to-many, and of course, there's different levels in between. And so the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you have an effective sales system that starts with simplification of whatever your sales process is right now. That's why step 7 here is simplifying sales. And then you want to increase capacity. That's why 8 here is strengthening sales. That's really what it is that you're targeting. Then when it comes to step 9, you're increasing throughput. Now, let's go beyond just like the abstract of that. I want to give you some examples so that you can start to map out what your process might look like here and to also give you an update on what's working for clients right now. Okay, so let's go a little bit deeper into the 9 steps. For step 1 here, selecting the segment, if you've got any kind of email list or audience, and let's say you're over like say 50,000 inside of your audience, you can be done with lower numbers, but generally you want to send some kind of audience survey to be able to understand who it is that you are trying to serve, the offers that they want, and then the kinds of sales pricing as well as systems that are going to be needed. And so when a lot of people send out surveys to their audiences, they're generally just capturing like one dimension of data. They might, figure out pricing, but they don't actually ask the right questions across the audience, offer, and sales portion of what I call the Rubik's Cube problem here. Because if you just focus on one side of your business, I just realized that you can't actually see the Rubik's Cube because it's like covered by the thing. Anyway, we got to keep this moving. So if you just look at one side of the Rubik's Cube and say that that's like the audience side of the audience offer sales equation and solve for that, then you haven't figured out the offers, you haven't figured out the sales. And likewise, if you just focus on another side of it, then you're not going to have a complete business model, a business system that's going to be able to take you from one-on-one to one-to-many in the marketing, in the audience offer and sales categories to be able to unlock the kind of growth that you want. That's the problem that we're really solving for, the entire business system as opposed to just one part of it. And then you've got to go back and rework everything, and then you don't know what to do. So one of the first things that you want to do is you want to actually send out a survey that addresses the questions that you're going to need to find out from your audience across those three areas. There's like 14 plus questions that you want to ask, but if you look here on the right, you'll see, just a sample of some of the outcomes there. You can see that, we can sort the data for different pricing. We can then see, what kind of offers they want. We'll figure out who they are. And there are many, many, many different questions. Once you've got that figured out and you started to understand what some of your segments are, then when the data comes back, you can actually take a look and see if, how much people are willing to pay. And as you can see here, we have I don't know if you can make this out, if it's big enough, but I'll just read it off to you just in case, people are also listening in on Spotify and Apple Podcasts instead of watching this on YouTube. But if you look on the right here, we're looking at a chart and we're seeing 200 plus survey replies come in for one of our past clients. And we saw that the willingness to pay was like $23,000, but then the actual amount of payments that came in was actually $30,000. And that's really cool because one of the things that usually comes up is, okay, well, you ask them how much they're willing to pay. Do they actually pay that amount? Well, we actually saw that they paid more. And we have lots of, other client data points that shows that we're able to there's actually a high congruence between how much they say they are willing to pay and how much they actually pay. And so it's actually pretty reliable data, and that's really cool. The other interesting thing that we found is just how much people are willing to tell you that they're willing to pay. And just as you can see here, we had one survey that came back and we saw a willingness to pay of close to $150,000, which is amazing for considering that if you look at the amount of survey replies that came in, 60 survey replies, that answers another sub question that people tend to have, which is, what if I don't have a big email list or something like that? And it's just really, 60 people here are willing to pay you collectively over 100K. That's more than enough to be able to validate pretty much any line of business, and then it's just a matter of then finding more of them, which is where the whole scaling segment comes up after that. Other thing I want to show here is the other cool thing you can do once you have enough data points, which is figuring out, just to describe the chart that we're looking at here, we're looking at a distribution of pricing for one of our past clients where when everybody responded, we were able to then just plot it on a chart and see a distribution of how many people wanted to pay lower price points versus medium ticket price points versus higher ticket price points. And then we were able to see how much would be too expensive, how much would be, too cheap. And so now we've got this price range in addition to figuring out who the people are. And all of this, at the end of the day starts to inform who our segment is before we then try to scale that segment. Now, the other cool piece to this is once we get up to step 2 with figuring out your audience, on the right here, it's going to look very blurry because it's really an export of client data, and to keep it anonymous to protect the privacy, I have to blur it out. But this is just showing you that we have, a lot of rows of data because the thing that we do in step 2 is to export a list of sales qualified leads, people who have raised their hand and said, hey, I want to buy the existing service that you're selling before we've even done any new product or program development, which is really cool for an influx of money into the business, right? And so that's really great if you have an existing sales process, and which any existing business does have. And so if you have a list of people who want to buy whatever it is that you're selling right now, you just plug them into that process, right? And that brings us up to step 2. Of getting this entire 9-step process going. Now, when we get up to step 3, the scaling segment, this is probably the most incredible piece so far that we've seen, because we actually had this amazing client result that happened just yesterday. The time of recording here is October 3rd, and as you can see here, this is October 2nd. And for one of our clients, they got 372,000 new email subscribers in just yesterday, in one day. It's pretty unheard of. And while I can't reveal the strategy here publicly that we're using to be able to do that, I can say we did it without any paid advertising. And yeah, it's incredible. It just solves the whole scaling segment problem. And if you remember the clip from Jay Abraham earlier, where he's like, hey, that's pretty phenomenal that you're able to get like $1 per lead. Just imagine this. We have dropped the lead cost to $0, and we've maintained the lead quality as well. And so the result has become like even more impressive, which again is, to me, it's blowing my mind a little bit. But let's keep going here. Let's say we now get up to step 4, which is the building, of the program. So other cool result here for one of my clients is we actually went through the entire second step of the roadmap here, where we pre-build the program, we pre-sell the product, and then we publish proof. And we can see that captured here in this table. So probably a little bit small for you to be able to see. So I'm going to just read it out for you. Some of these data points. Basically, had about an email list of about like 10,000 subscribers. This is way before this whole, 300,000 new email subscribers came in. And then we had about 45 buyers. Average order value was $746.30. Total revenue was $33,583.63. The conversion rate was 0.5%, and then the revenue per subscriber was $3.35. All of this is to say is that we had a smaller group of people who bought things, they went through, and then what's not visualized here is the fact that we already have student testimonials coming back for this program, this course that we had put together, that shows that people are able to get the proof. That proves that it works, because they're able to get the result that was promised. And all that's to say is that is now leading us up to, now that we've got this validated course/program, next step of the process, where you can probably imagine that this is building up to, is that we did that with a smaller number of people, right? So how do we actually then start to, turn on like the one-to-many sales engine? First is with a smaller test. On the right here, you're seeing the cover for a report that I'm putting together for people who are on my email list. If you're not, go ahead, jump on the email list till you get it too once we release it. I had a team call this morning where we're putting this together, but the name of the report is the 40K in 4 weeks case study. And it is a product flywheel case study. And inside of it, you're going to see the messages that I sent to fill a group program with a small list of 20 people, which again is solving for that earlier problem that I mentioned, where some people believe that they need a super huge audience to be able to get this thing going. That's just not the case. And I'm doing something I've never done before, which is I'm just including screenshots of the actual messages that I sent to start the sales conversation without any fancy technology or anything like that. It was really a couple of emails, but figuring out what to say to start the conversation in a non-salesy or sleazy way is difficult for some. So I wanted to just over-deliver, in the words of Brian Kurtz, one of our upcoming guests, and to just really just show you, how it is that we're doing this stuff so that it's not like fluff. So that said, let's keep this moving because we don't have a whole lot of time. I've got to finish this before my next client call. So the next thing that is important for you to know is where we're going. I'm going to skip over number 8 here, which is the strengthening of sales. And I want to skip to the scaling of sales, which is the portion that just kicked off this week with those 300 plus subscribers that came in. And what you're seeing here on the right is the projections for what it is that we're trying to do. So if you can't see it, or if you're listening in, just know that there are 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, Total revenue projection is 373,000. The second scenario is 615,000. The third scenario is 839,000. Key thing for you to understand is that with those revenue projections, the subscriber count that this is based on is the same, which is 250,000 email subscribers. Remember, the amount that we got is 300,000 plus, and it's actually going to be 500,000 plus in a couple weeks. So like these numbers are going to be larger, but just sharing with you the projections that we initially did. Now, for the three scenarios that I shared, the conversion rates are respectively 0.2%, 0.33%, and 0.45%. The average order value projected is the same as you saw before in the earlier part of this video when I shared that we tested this with just 10,000 subscribers, and so average order value here is $746.30. And then the projected buyers for each of these scenarios are respectively 500, 825, and 1,125. If this is sounding like a whole bunch of gibberish, please, if you're listening to this, go over and watch the YouTube video. It's going to be much easier to just look at the table that I'm literally reading this from right now. And with that said, so that brings us up to step 9, what we're aiming to achieve here with the scaling of sales. Now, I can't share the conversion system that I'm designing, but I can say that, like I mentioned before, you're wanting to have effectiveness, capacity, and throughput for both your offer systems as well as your sales systems. And when it comes to having the capacity and the throughput and the effectiveness for the sales system, I'm designing a funnel conversion system that is able to handle this volume, like 250,000, 350,000, 500,000 people. And when you run the numbers, it's going to be able to handle that kind of throughput that's going to be able to generate like $1 million in revenue per month. There's lots of moving parts to it, but that's a client deliverable that I can't, of course, screen share here publicly on YouTube. But just know that these are the numbers that we're aiming to hit. And as much as I'm able to share as we go through the campaign, I'm just going to, give updates as best as I can, that while also protecting client data, client identity, and such. Now, I mentioned that this was skipping forward to the scaling of sales, which is the target that we're trying to hit. That funnel map that I just described is what goes into strengthening sales, which is increasing the capacity that it's able to handle, building the one-to-many system to be able to do that. And so that's the giant update on what's happening with active projects that we're working on right now, and to show you just how that fits into the bigger picture of this roadmap that I revealed last week that we're using to be able to generate client results for everyone that we work with through this year as well as through next year, because I know there's a lot of this theoretical stuff that's floating around online. And at least when I was getting started, I would have loved to be able to just see something that's in the wild that's actually working, and something that is actually, getting results and continuing to get results and being updated and is almost a work in progress. And knowing that whoever's working on it is just going to continue to tweak it, continue to update it, and be able to share what's working, what's not, because not every single campaign works. Sometimes we do these high risk, high reward things, and not every campaign hits. But what I can share is we are already in the process of getting another 450,000 email subscribers. And so it just really underlines the need for having a system that can handle the capacity of all of these people coming through it, so that we could generate, 1 million in revenue per month, which just completely exceeds, it's more than like doubles and like 10x's some businesses and such. All that's to say, if you like these kinds of podcast shows, let me know in the comments section, send me an email. We are still going to be mixing in the guest interviews I really enjoy doing those, but I also want to mix in more of consultants who are, on the front lines building their businesses so that we can see not just how my frameworks apply, but also some of the guests that I have on, how their frameworks apply so that we can all learn and grow together. If this sounds super valuable and helpful, if you're someone that's wanting to be able to put one of these into your business, then join the email list, reach out. We're just about at like capacity for this month, but as soon as like we have additional capacity, then I'll just send an email out to folks and whoever's like the best fit. We tend to work with past clients and active clients first before we take on anyone new, because we want to make sure that the quality of the service as well as the results are protected for everybody. But we also like continuing to help others scale their impact to the world, because there's a lot of good people out there doing good work, and we want more of the world to know about you all. So hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hey, thanks for checking out the show. If you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button, and also subscribe so you don't miss another one. It also tells us which ones that you like the most so that we can then do more interviews like that. If you want to go from idea to implementation though, especially if you're wanting to productize your expertise so that you can scale your impact on your clients and of course grow your business, then join our email list. There we're going to talk about how modern consultants can productize their expertise so that they can have a greater impact on the world around them and live life on their terms. If that's up your alley, I hope to see you on the other side. Talk soon.